Hey everybody, I'm going to do a video to talk about some common garment elements in this children's wear collection that requires fur, denim, a chunky sweater knit, and plaid. So let's talk through a couple of things. Let me first start with fur, since fur is something that's required for everybody. And I just want to start by saying that there are so many types of fur, you guys. These represent like a jacket sleeve. It could be long and shaggy or a little bit less so, or it can be kind of short, or it can be popcorny like a shearling. Okay, so there's so many different types of fur. And this is what the silhouette on your flats is going to look like depending on the type of the fur. Now, if you like the look of any of these, feel free to trace this. I'm going to double check, but I think this is in your packet that has some design details that should be in your module. I'll double check, make sure it made it in there. Oh yeah, here's one down here. Okay, let's talk about how to think this through. Let's say that I'm doing a fur, what am I doing? Let's do a fur collar on a, do we want a fur collar or do we want an entire fur jacket? Ooh, I know. Let's put kind of a funnel neck. Okay, let's put kind of a funnel neck coming up high on him, mark his center line. And let's say that the opening of the neck is up here and it's going to be a little bit bulky. So I'm going to say that it's going to have a funnel neck down here, and it's going to have an arm side and a nice big wide sleeve. You can choose which arm you do. Maybe I want to actually switch and do it on my extended arm. Okay. So I'll do it going out here. Now notice that I'm not right up against the croquis body because this is a fur coat. It's outerwear, it's bulky fur. I'm going to stay away from the body here. I want it to be nice and wide. Okay, and then we're going to come down, and then let's see, how long do we want this thing? Maybe just go to about hip length, and we'll come down like that. Okay, just in the interest of making this video not a million hours long, I'm not going to reflect it, but your next step would be to reflect it. Okay, let me open this up, and let's talk about what we've got here. All I've done is draw a garment that I know is going to be fur, and I made it bulky, but I haven't turned it into fur yet. I'm now going to go ahead and turn my silhouette into fur. And let's say that this whole thing is kind of a, I don't know what's more helpful for you guys, what type of fur, like a short stubby fur, or a more popcorny shearling fur, or a long shaggy fur. I don't know what I should do. Let me just do kind of a, I'll do kind of a middle length fur. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm turning my lines into furriness. I'm going to give it a little bit of fur going all the way along. Try not to make your lines break though. We do need a proper full silhouette. And you can erase away your original line. So we'll make that nice and furry. And let me do the underarm seam here too, instead of a straight line. I always start with a straight line because it helps me to envision what I'm dealing with, and then I just kind of furify it. Okay, so I'll do that all the way along. Now, long shaggy fur is a little bit directional, so you're actually going to need to think about that. Again, you can trace that one. That is, I hope, in the packet I uploaded for you guys. But, you know, if you had a long shaggy fur maybe here, okay, it would be more like this. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Like long and shaggy. Okay, but I'll keep it the same for consistency on mine. Okay, so you're going to furify your edges, furify the hem by just getting rid of those straight lines and making them look more furry. Okay, now it's a fur jacket, but guys, it's got the same construction details as any other jacket. So if you want this to have an underarm seam, by all means, we got to put an underarm seam in there, okay? I'm going to wiggle it to make it feel like it's in the fur. We still have an arm side, so I'm going to do that arm side, but I'm going to do it with a little bit of a wiggly line just to make it seem like it's in the fur. And I'll do the same here on the shoulder seam. This garment also has a side seam, right? Because it's constructed. Now, there's other ways to construct garments, but wherever you need a seam, put a seam. Just because it's fur doesn't mean it didn't get sewn together. This funnel neck might have a seam going right up the neck. Whatever kind of closures and things you want. I will say this because I don't feel like I've emphasized this in the assignments we've done so far. if your jacket had, this is my center line, if your jacket has buttons or something, guys, those buttons or snaps, those are centered. Those are centered on the line. And then the jacket will overlap to close. Okay, does that make sense? Take a look at your own clothes and you'll notice this. People for some reason assume that the opening is centered and the buttons are off to the side, but that's actually not the case. The buttons are centered. Okay, so maybe we'll do that, and then maybe on this side it has a stitch, because we can still stitch on fur. Okay, and if this is some sort of a button placket, it might need some stitching. Okay, so hopefully that gets you started with turning your flats into being more furry. Do look at some of the student projects that you'll see in the module, and you'll see their fur and you'll see their denim. You guys know how to do denim, and you'll see all their other their sweater knit, which I'm going to demo here in just a second, but that should give you some good ideas too, because this isn't the only way to do it, for the record. Like, I am doing this one way, but there's other ways as well. I want you also, for outerwear, to really observe actual outerwear. Notice what direction the buttonholes go. If they're buttonholes, they are going to go horizontal, versus a shirt which has buttonholes going vertical. Okay, if you are doing buttons, make sure you're spacing them evenly. Okay, so that was just last touch, finishing touch. I really like when I'm doing fur, especially if it's a really textured fur, I'll do it just a little bit of not a lot. You don't want to go crazy here, but a little bit of this goes a long way towards kind of giving it that sort of texture that we want. And I'm basically doing almost like little W shapes like that to make it feel furry. Okay, so that's fur. Let's talk sweater knit. Okay, let's say that this little guy is wearing, I don't know, maybe like a sweater vest. Let's give him a little preppy sweater vest. So let's say he's got like a V-neck here, and that's going to come down about like that. And then we're going to go here and then around the arm opening, and it's going to be a little bit loose fitting because it's a sweater, right? Sweaters, at least chunky ones, we don't want it to be too tight. And maybe it's got some rib trim down here at the bottom. That's a start. Okay, and mark my centers, and you'll go ahead and reflect that. Okay, now let me put in some details and let me show you one way to make it look like sweater knit. Find a reference photo also, because sweater knit comes in all different things. My goal here is for you to get experience doing a flat and then illustrating a textured knit, okay? So if it's chunky and has cables, that's what we're going for. Okay, I'm going to do this as my arm opening. There's my trim on the front. It's funny, I just did the sketching videos, and I can tell I'm in sketching mindset because my flats, I'm just like got a transition. I'm doing flats now. I need solid, smooth lines. I'm not sketching. Okay, and then here's my back neck. The back neck always drops down. Let me say that again. The back neck always drops down. And then my back edge will be right in there. Okay, let's turn this into a cable knit sweater vest. Okay, let me fold it and reflect it. And I'll go ahead and trace it. While I'm tracing it, let me just talk a little bit about your plaid and any other fun like surface colors and details. First of all of your pieces are going to come in multiple colorways, okay? 2 at least per garment. Now, for the plaid, you do not need to draw plaid on your flats. In fact, I would say don't do that, because maybe that plaid shirt also comes in a solid, okay? Also, if you try to draw plaid all over it, it's just going to confuse people. I'm doing my seams just like I always do, so let me put a side seam in here. Maybe it runs down the hem. Maybe it runs actually up into the arm trim. Okay, we want to put a shoulder seam in here, shoulder seam. So what was I saying? So don't draw plaid on your flats. You might have a screen print or something. You could draw that in pencil, and then we'll have to talk next week about what maybe the best way is for you to put that on the flat so that people don't confuse it for seams. My rule of thumb is if you close your eyes and you touch a garment and you don't feel anything, I don't put it on the flat, okay? Because the sewer probably doesn't need to know. But if the sewer needs to know, or if there's texture there, I do like to indicate that on the flats. Okay, let me put some, let's say this has got a chunky rib situation. Okay, so this is not the fine gauge rib that we saw on the t-shirt and on that white tank top. This would be like a chunky one. So what I do is I put a little bit of nitty knit. I make it look a little textured. Now again, there's other ways to do this, but this is the way I've done that has been really successful for me to communicate, because these are blueprints. The whole goal of a flat is to communicate what's going on with that garment. And if you're getting it across and it's all accurate, then I would say your flats are successful. There are plenty of different ways to do these things. And we've talked a little bit about seam lines, and some people put them, some people don't. Some companies do it, some companies don't. So really you need to talk to either your employer or whatever factory you're working with, see what, if they have preferences or whatever, and they need to accommodate you as well. But yeah, there's different ways to do this. Okay, so as you can see, I'm just drawing in some light ribbing and I'm putting in a little bit of texture. You don't have to go crazy with this. When we ink it, we're going to do this with a really light touch with an 005 pen. Now, something else I've liked in the past too is if it really is a sort of chunky hem, I'll actually use the silhouette to help communicate that, and I could do that throughout. Okay, like this feels a little flat if I'm going to put that much texture on it, so maybe this needs to reflect the chunkiness of this rib. Okay, let's put a cable down the middle. Cables are those beautiful knitting patterns that you see going down the middle of sweaters. Find a reference photo. There's so many different styles, but I'll give you my go-to that kind of cracks me up is, do you guys remember drawing the S's in elementary school? For the record, I think mine was the only elementary school that did not do this, but apparently everybody else everywhere on planet Earth did this, where you connected your lines like this and made like this pattern. Oh my God, you guys, like that works really well for a cable knit. How funny is that? And then you can come in and just give it a little bit of texture. Okay, maybe there's just some regular ribs going through here. You'll see when I do these, I let my lines kind of break because I don't want to do the line as a solid line all the way down and make somebody think it's a seam line. Okay, solid lines like this, that's a seam line. But these other textural lines, we just want to make sure that they are visually differentiated, okay? There's a ton of different styles of cable and whatnot that you can do. So again, reference photos are going to be your friend, but don't forget, even in these more textured garments, we still need to construct them properly. We still need a shoulder seam, side seams, underarm seams, arm size, all of that kind of stuff, okay? Hopefully that gets the point across on that one. Oh, let me do a puffer real quick. I'm going to do a puffer because that is another one that everyone always requests. And let me see here. And then next week, we're going to, so today obviously we're starting doing some of your flats, but you guys are going to do more flats next week. And as we get into your garment designs, if you don't know how to do a flat for something, just let me know. Probably other people need it too, and I'll do a video. Okay, so let's say I'm doing a puffer. Maybe it's like a shortish puffer. Start by outlining it, okay? Can you tell I'm still in sketching mode? Oh my gosh. Okay, maybe it's collarless. Why not? All right, start with your overall shape. This is so funny. I'm truly thinking like I'm doing illustration instead of flats right now. Focus, focus. Okay, so start with that. Now, next thing you're going to do is you're going to break this up with light lines that are going to be slightly curved. Let me show you something. I want to pause this real quick. Okay, you know how in our illustration video I was drawing all those grid lines? I haven't talked about that yet, but what that's doing is it's showing you how a hem would fall, how a seam would fall if it's horizontal on a three-dimensional figure. What we typically think of for kids is our eye level is about here, right around the stomach area. Anything above that starts to curve like a hill. Anything below that curves like a valley. So that's going to help you with your hem angles, your cuffs, your collars, all of that stuff. So same deal with my puffer, is I can curve lines around that. We'll talk more about that as needed. And let's say I'm going to go here, okay. You know, what I just was talking about was more for illustration, but I guess my point is these lines, we like them to be a little bit curved. Okay, once you've got your lines lightly drawn in there, we're now going to refine the silhouette. Again, the silhouettes communicate so much. So I'm going to come here and in between every one of these lines, padoom, padoom, padoom. I'm going to puff it, okay? You could do these as you could do your puffer stitches as a grid. You could do it as, you can make them tighter together, whatever kind of puffer you guys want, but basically draw the lines and then puff it. And puff and puff and puff. And however full you want it is how much you can puff it. Okay, it could puff a lot or it could just puff a little. It's up to you what kind of puffer you're doing. Same on the sides. I could pop, pop, pop. Okay, now it's a puffer. It still has seams. I encourage you to look at real life garments because you're going to see that they still have to be constructed with seams. We're still going to have a side seam. The arm size still going to go all the way. And then once we've got our seams in place, we're going to put a shoulder seam right there. Once we've got our seams in place, then these puffer lines, unless it's color blocked, chances are these were actually done with stitching, okay? If you want to head out over the weekend and look at real garments, guys, there's nothing better to educate yourself than going into different stores at different price points and just seeing what they sell, looking how it's made, reading what the fabrics are. Like that is hugely educational. Okay, maybe it's got a little ribbed hem. Maybe it's got a little pocket here stitched around. Okay, look at real garments, see what they have, take ideas from that so that you make sure you get your construction details right. Okay, so that's how it at least gives you a sense of one way to approach a puffer. Any other garments you guys aren't sure how to do flats for, give it your best shot and then ask me questions, and there will be more videos, I'm sure, as we get into your flats next week. Okay, thanks you guys. Hope everyone is well, and I'll talk to you soon.